Hey YouTube, how to tie the belt. One of the first things that a new martial artist has to tackle as far as a skill to master, so let's get into it. I'm going to cover 3 different ways of tying your martial arts belt, your karate belt, that I've seen over the years. There's probably more, but these are the 3 that I'm going to cover. So the first is the traditional tie. So the way you do that is you take the belt and divide it in half, right? So you have equal length, right? And let this part kind of fall, and in the middle you're going to place right at your belly button, your navel, that area here. You're going to wrap around, right, and bring it around like so. And now here's the trick: the tail that's in your left hand, that lies flat. The one that's in your right hand lays over the top of it, right? And that's what you end up with. So again, one on your left lies flat, one on the right goes over that one, right? So the one that came from the right, the one that came around this way, goes underneath both layers of fabric. Very important. So this goes underneath both, through, and comes out on top, right? So now let's look what we got. We have the bottom part down here. We have the part that wrapped around and came on our right side, went underneath both layers of fabric, and then on top. So we have 2 pieces now. So now for tying this, it can be as simple as simply taking the top piece, laying it over, pulling it through, and then tying. But if you look, that knot is kind of ugly looking, right? That's not what we want. It looks kind of like twisted up and just not very pleasant. So the way to avoid that is, again, we check our lengths. You want them to be about equal. That should cover that. Let's take the scenario where one side is a lot longer than the other. So you go around and you're like this, right? You don't want to tie the tie like this, because if you do that, you'll end up with something looking like this, which looks bad. I mean, you have like one tail is way longer than the other. So whenever you come around, you want to make sure that you're even. So in this case, where left is a lot longer than right, I just simply move it this way to my right, pull them through, and you actually want the left tail to be just slightly, just a touch longer than the right one, because it does a little more work. So the way we avoid that twisting is the bottom piece, the one that comes out of the bottom, you take it and you flip it over. The one that's on top, you lay on top of that, it goes through and then out to the right, right? So this guy's in my right hand, this is my left hand, and then I just simply pull, and there you go. So that twisting is all gone, you get a nice looking knot. This is a tie you'll see where you just kind of wrap, where I showed you guys that you start at your belly button and go around the back and then around. This is a tie you'll see more senior martial artists doing, ones that have been training, 15, 20 years, that, a lot of the old school martial artists, this is the tie they go with. One of the, I don't know, you call it disadvantage or advantage, is if you look at the back, the belt the 2 layers tend to not lay on top of each other very neatly, right? So you have like this thing where like it's almost looks like 2 belts. I mean, you can kind of like squinch them together and get it to look neat, but that's, depending on your preference, that could be a disadvantage, that way of tying your belt. So that's option 1, the traditional tie. The second option is the one that I learned when I first started training in Tang Soo Do, and I'm not sure what you actually call it. You can call it like the knee tie or the wrap, because it's like you're wrapping the belt around yourself. So let's go and get into that one. So we'll get this off, and the way it starts is the belt, like one of the ends of the belt starts on your right hip, on your right side. So the way this works is you take part of the belt, right, and you lay it on your right hip like that, right? Then you take the remaining of the belt, you got all this extra material, you wrap it around once, and then you lay it on top of this guy, right, that's already been sitting there, and you wrap it around again, right? So again, the same rule applies. The part of the end of the belt that's in my right hand that I've been wrapping around, that one goes underneath both of these layers. So we bring it around in front again, right? I hold it. This piece goes underneath both layers of fabric. So it goes under and out, both layers, right? Same thing again. We check our length. That looks pretty good, right? Looks nice, not bad. And again, the same way to prevent that twisting motion, you take the bottom one, the one that's sitting on the bottom, and you flip it over. The one that's on top lays over it, it goes under, through, and then we don't pull up, we don't pull down, we pull straight out, right and left, right? Like that. And there you go. So you get a nice, neat looking knot. And if we look at the back, it's all nice and even, right? So it's a nice, aesthetically looking, it's much better looking knot. This is what I learned. I tied my belt this way for a number of years. And this is probably the way we teach all new students to tie their belt. So you start on your right hip, wrap around, and then under, through, and you end up with this. The last option, the third knot, or the judo knot, as it's commonly called. The advantage to both the ones I've shown you so far is that they're very easy to learn, relatively speaking. The judo knot, the actual tying in the very end, is a little bit more complicated, but it has the advantage that the knot doesn't come loose. Like these, after you're training for a while, you're doing a lot of punches and kicks and inserting yourself in forms, these tend to work themselves loose over time, whereas the judo knot does not. So I'll show you guys that one next. So option 3, the judo knot. So we'll untie this. Again, starting back at the beginning, we're going to go with the wrap technique for getting the belt around ourselves. So again, we take one end, we lay it on our right hip, we wrap around once, laying it on top, nice and neat, around a second time. All right, and the same thing, the same story applies. The end that's we've been wrapping around ourselves, that one goes underneath both layers. So same thing, goes underneath both and out the top, right? So let's check our lengths. That's not gonna work. If we tie it like that, it's gonna look pretty ugly. So we gotta even that up. We'll move it over to the right a little bit, pull out some material underneath, and that looks pretty good. So the judo knot, you gotta come in for this one a little bit. So the bottom piece, the bottom tail does the work first. So this top one, we're gonna put it out of the way for now, right? So the bottom piece, the bottom end of the belt comes up, when there's no twisting, just comes up, and then you see these two pieces, we have like 2 layers here. This guy goes up and in between each of those, kind of like that, right? So you've got like this loop you've kind of created and it goes in between both layers. The top tail, the one that we've been using so far, it hasn't been doing anything, it goes over, under, through the hole, through this hole that's here, and then in between these 2 layers on our right hip, right? So kind of like that. And now all we do to create the knot is we just simply pull here, and you end up with this nice, it ends up being a little bit bigger knot, which you may or may not like. This really nice knot that does not come loose. So if you can see here, I can pull on this, it doesn't matter, this knot is not gonna budge. So this is a knot I've been using for several years now. I really like it. It's, more of a judo knot, as you see a lot of judo or any kind of throwing martial artists tend to use this because it doesn't come loose as easily. And again, so this is the option that I like. So again, let's review all 3. This is, again, the judo knot. We covered the traditional, the neat wrap, or the one that most new students learn, and at least in our studio. And then we have the judo knot, or like the locking knot that kind of prevents the belt from coming loose. So let's go through each one last time so you guys can see all 3s. You can decide on which one works best for you. So, again, with our traditional, remember, we're not going to do the wrapping motion. We're going to take our belt, divide it in half so we get even length, so it's nice and even, like so, right? That middle portion, now, we're going to take that, open, and just lay it on our belly button, right? Kind of like that. And then we're just going to take it, wrap around the back. So actually get it happens around the back. So we wrap around the back, right? And then I trade hands. So this guy's going to grab this side, this guy's going to grab this side, and then I come back around to the front. The one that's in my left hand lays flat over like this initial layer. The one that's in my right hand lays on top of that. So if you see here now, we've got 2 layers, and then this guy that came from my right laying over both of them. So the same rule applies. The one that comes from the right hand side goes underneath both layers. It goes under both layers of our belt, right? We check our length, looks good. Bottom, we flip over. We lay the top on top of that. It goes through, and then we pull out to the right, and there you go. You have your nice traditional knot. We do have this actually going on in the back, so if you want to be more traditional, you can kind of do that, your choice. But there you go. Second is the wrapping method of tying. So we'll come loose again. Yes. We take one end, we put on our right hip. The rest of the belt, we're going to wrap around once and lay it on top. Wrap around again, right? And this guy that comes again from our right side, same rule, goes underneath both pieces of fabric. So it goes underneath both and out, right? The one that's staying on the bottom, we just kind of pull them together now. We check our length. It's a little bit off, but that's probably going to be okay, right? And the same type of deal. So the bottom one, we flip it over. The top lays on top of it. The top part does all the work. Goes under, through, and then we just pull to the right, pull to the left, and there you go. That's your neater tie, neater knot, and then again has the advantage of the back, nice and neat, looks good. So even when you're on the floor sweating, you know you may be working on your forms, your kicks, but at least your belt looks good, right? The last option is the judo knot. So let's go into that. So we will show that guy. So it starts the same way. The way I do it, it starts the same way as the wrap. So we lay the belt one end on our right hip, around, and then around again. And again, this right side, the part that comes from our right side goes underneath both layers. Good. Okay. We check our length. That looks pretty good. So again, the bottom piece does all the work first. So this bottom one, where there's no twisting, again, this bottom one goes up. It's like it's diving in, goes in. We open a little hole here on our left hip, and we tuck it in, right? And we leave some space here. This piece that's been sitting on top, the belt, the end of the belt that's coming out of the top, goes over, through. You see, I'm not twisting or anything. Goes over, through, and then we make a space here on our right hip and fish it in between. So now you have the belt. You have one end going through our left hip here in between, and another one going through the belt, both layers on our right sides. And all we do now is we just kind of even this guy up, just kind of pull, and there you go. And this is the knot that I like. I mean, it ends up being a little bit bigger. So if you're like a big buckle guy or a big buckle girl kind of girl, you know, either way, you can go with the judo knot. It tends to be a little bit bigger because of the wrapping, the way it goes. But this is the knot that no matter how hard you're training, no matter what you're doing, this is not going to come loose. So I like this because whenever I'm out on the floor, I never have to worry about my belt coming loose, which is good because your instructors typically don't like you messing around with your belt when you're training. So this is a good way of preventing that from happening. So I hope you guys found this useful. You got 3 options. You got the traditional, the wrap, and then the judo knot. Hopefully you guys found this useful towards helping you get better at tying your belt. It's something that just takes practice, takes reps. Kind of like tying your shoes when you first start out, it's a little bit hard, but as you get into it more and more and more, it becomes a lot easier. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. I have also set up a website called ImproveMyKarate.com. There's going to be a lot of content like this on there. I'm also going to cover things like breaking techniques, improving your forms, improving your punches and kicks, just methods for generating more power in your techniques. So please feel free to check that out. Again, it's ImproveMyKarate.com. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time.